Hi there, Simon from simonwood.com. 6 spicy southern French succulent super wines have I got? I don't know. We forget the alliteration, let's just dive in. I've got 6 of them to go at and only 1 glass. Is it possible? Of course it is. First one I have got here, Syrah Grenache, Bordier Nord, mise en bouteille par le cellier d'Eole. And I think there's someone called Languedoc behind here. If it isn't, I will get castigated and whipped, but seeing as I quite like that stuff, I can cope. Anyway, Paydoc, and it's 2010 vintage. Nice spice, nice red and dark fruit characters, but also a touch of reduction. If you don't know what reduction is, think about when you open a can of beer and there's that plume of gas that goes tss, and there's a slightly rubbery smell to it. Get that character here. Small amount of it in a wine, good. It often blows off with time, but in the meantime adds a little bit of funky complexity. Too much and the wine just remains like locked in itself and never fully comes out of its shell. Here, I've got a feeling it's hovering between the two. I think that they've kept that, they've done the reduction to keep it a little bit fresh, but I wish they'd let it go a bit more and get a bit more wildness in there. And I get that slightly sweaty's the wrong word, but rubbery fruit coming through. Feel if you've ever had a red wine with certain types of mushroom and you're left with that. Rubber is the only way I can describe it. Here, I like that sweet, plummy, plump fruit, but not the reduction. So, 50-50 wine for me. Let's see whether we get that with Paul Mas Carignan. Got a couple of wines from him, although they don't both say Paul Mas on the label. But this is a Paul Mas estate, Carignan, the Savignac Vineyard, 2010, and it's Vieille Vigne Carignan. Carignan pretty much is always Vieille Vigne when you see it as a solo performer, because if you get young Carignan vines, they're not very well behaved. It takes the vines need to be about 30 or 40 years old, and preferably 60 or 70 year old before they start showing their true mettle. Well, here there's a bit more reduction. There's a bit more of that rubbery character, but it's got the what I call the sweet, raisiny character of a ripe Carignan. If you get wines like Fitou and maybe sometimes Corbière as well, and you open them and there is this rounded, slightly rustic raisin character, that's ripe Carignan. Here it's got that character as well. Sometimes if you pick it that little bit too early, it's lost a little bit of that rusticity. Maybe it's more fragrant, but it really is a balancing act with Carignan. Here smells like they've got it just about right. So there's a little bit of the funky sweetness of maturity, but still some of the freshness of youth. And the fruit flavours are pretty nice. What I have against the wine though is that they've put it in oak, and the oak is adding, I don't know whether it's the particular type of barrel that they were using. There's a green edge to the oak, there's a smokiness that at the moment doesn't sit very nicely with this more mature edge of the fruit. So it's like there's a young edge of the slightly immature oak and the slightly raisiny edge of the fruit, and they're not making beautiful music together. They're more clashing with each other. Sort of wine I wouldn't be surprised to see it come out of its shell, but at the moment I think it won't. I think it's. I just wish that they'd use older barrels, bigger barrels. Yeah, not sure there. Okay, next one I've got Abbott's. Abbott's and Delaunay, Corbière Reserve 2010. Now, Abbott's was a winery set up in the 1990s by an Australian couple who have since moved on, and the wines went to there was a sticky patch, let's say, in the early noughties. But now, last time I tasted a range of wines from these guys, they were back on form. So let's see. I'm looking forward to this actually. So 2010 Corbière. Do we have the grape varieties on here? Syrah, Grenache, Mourvedre. And the Syrah is the one that jumps out here. It's that smoky bacon, meaty spice, a little bit of ginger biscuit, and it smells like it's going to be a bit rusty, and it's going to have a few stories to tell, and fresh with it. So it's rustic and fresh. I mean, what more do you want in a wine? Well, maybe some people want other things, but I like the smell of this. Ooh, that's a young, vigorous monster. No, monster's the wrong word. It's certainly got a lot to say for itself, but it's not saying it too loudly. And I was saying about a green oak edge on the Paul Mas Carignan. Here I do get a little bit of that. There's an oak adding a little bit of character, which I would describe maybe as more herbal than herbaceous. Is that splitting hairs? Well, maybe I think maybe because the fruit here has got an extra bit of richness and corpulence to it, then it can cope with that little bit of green edge, just bringing it down and not making it. It doesn't make it too loud, too shouty. What it does is it just gives a little bit more personality. The wine's got lots of personality anyway. I love this brown sugar character coming through, dry brown sugar I call it, because it's like you get the flavours of the sweetness, but not that claggy sweetness. I know what I mean. I'm going to have another sip and see if I can come up with a better tasting note after this brief interlude. No, I can't. I just love this. I just love this immediate meaty, spicy edge of the Syrah, but with the Mourvedre, I think in particular, adding a little bit of more foxy side to it. And again, a wine with stories to tell, I said. So I do like that. Let's see whether I like the next one, which is 100% Syrah, Domaine Les Yeux, Pédoc, and produced by Jean-Paul et Michel Dadé. Who is the Dadé? Well, if the first wine was reduction not being maybe as well handled as it could be, here they've done it pretty well. Syrah and reduction, they go very nicely together, and it accentuates the spicy, meaty character of the grape. And this feels like a wine that's got it absolutely right. If I think about good Crozes Hermitage, there's this juiciness, but there's this this wild, more gamey side. Here it smells like they've got both in harmony. Well, I love that for its. It's a strange mixture of warmth and freshness. It's got this warm, hearty, spicy fruit, but thanks to the part of that reduction, it's being given a little bit of freshness. So the Syrah is giving the spiciness, the warmth, the plummy, juicy blackcurrant flavours, and it's a 2009. It feels like it's got a pretty decent future ahead of it. I wouldn't be surprised to see certainly 5 years, maybe even longer. At the moment, it's a wine that I want to open today, drink tomorrow, and or maybe just give my glass a few more swirls and see how it comes out. I'd be interested to see the progress of those two wines, because I think that the Domaine Les Yeux is almost like more distinctive, but maybe it doesn't have the range of flavours that are in the Corbière. Is that better or is that different? I suppose it's like whether you prefer solo singers or beat combos. Hey, let's see whether we're on solo or beat combo for Chateau de Montmal from Fitou. And I think this is another mass. No, it's not a mass wine. Slap wrist. It's from another of the movers and shakers in southern France, the Montoche Cooperative, based in. I think it's one of those places where almost like where Corbière meets Fitou. And but they draw fruit from quite a lot of vineyards throughout that end of the Languedoc, or that end from your camera point of view. Doesn't let on the back label what the grapes are here, but being more on that where Roussillon meets old-fashioned Languedoc as it was, I imagine there's quite a bit of Grenache here, maybe some Syrah as well, but it's got what I call that restrained jamminess, like warm baked jamminess, but with freshness. Does that make sense? Well, it does when I smell a wine like this. It smells like it's got pounce and bounce. And it's got classic southern herbs, a bit of that chocolatey character that was in the previous. I can't remember which I said chocolate about, but it's got a little bit of chocolatey richness too. Fascinating contrast between that and the two previous ones. Here, there is a juiciness, a liveliness. I'd say more of a soil-like character coming through. It feels that if the previous two were surviving either on the grape varieties or the winemaking, here the fruit is there, and it's really nice. There's a freshness about it. There's this juicy berry, plums, there's the blackberries, the black currants, but behind it feels like there's a backup force, so when the fruit has started to fade there will be more characteristics coming through, and that's the one I put my money on for the long term. I think that the previous two are good. I think that has got a little bit more class and personality, but I'd be fascinated to see, to almost like keep these bottles open for about 3 or 4 days and have a little glass of each, maybe every 6 or 7 hours, and see how they progress. But can't do that because I'm having a party tomorrow and they're all going to get troughed. But oh well, never mind. Let's get on to the last wine, and we are back to, I think this is from the Paul Mas stable. It's Domaine de Cré-Ricard, and I've saved it till last because yes, it's got some of these southern grapes, the Grenache and Syrah, but the main ones here, I think it's mostly Merlot and Cabernet. I think Merlot and Cabernet between them make up 70-75% of the wine, but let's give it a whirl and see where we get to. Yeah, and it is a different beast. It smells like claret with cojones. It smells like it's got the sweet, spicy blackcurrant cassis edge of a very ripe Bordeaux, but with as almost as if someone's put 2 spoonfuls of brown sugar in. Not to make it sweeter, but just to give it a little bit more fullness and upfrontness. And that's pretty delicious too. It's got the Bordeaux grape poise and backbone, if you want to call it that, but then it's got this southern wildness. It's got the sense of the soil, it's got the spice, it's got the tar-like ashy earthiness, and but freshness as well. And I mean, I don't know how much people who are watching this will be spending on a bottle of Bordeaux as a treat for somebody, but to be honest, I mean, there are wines here that are costing around £10, and they're far more satisfying and probably a bit more reliable than £10 Bordeaux. Here, in terms of its Bordeaux-ness, yes, maybe it's not going to age to that cedary, finely poised character, where between, is it just ripe, is it underripe? I don't think because it is a ripe wine, but it's still got that freshness, and I think that freshness is going to keep it going. Maybe Bordeaux will, from this vintage, will be going strong at 10-15 years old. Yeah, I'd be digging in when it's about 6 years old, but I'd probably be digging in with slightly more enthusiasm for similarly priced Bordeaux. I've really enjoyed these 6 wines. My only problem now is what to drink tonight. I'm on duck, and maybe I'll just put all 4 bottles on the table, and there'll be 2 of us eating the duck. Maybe I won't do any filming tomorrow. See you soon.